Vikings fans, you are listening to the Purple People podcast, the Adrian Peterson edition. I am Kyle West. We have Adam Carlson.
Hey.
We have Kyle Smith.
I do somewhere.
Hey, what's up,
there
guys?
he is.
And we have Adrian Peterson and lots of Adrian Peterson. Right?
Lots of Adrian talk this week is going to be happening.
And then maybe we're done. Maybe we can take a break.
But this should be a shorter show because we ran so late into the week last week. So hopefully we can get this one banged out and we can prepare for next week and have actual football-related stuff going on, which is going to be great. But let's go into the title and everything. We got the Purple People podcast this week, episode number 154. This episode is titled 3-2-1 Contract. I don't know if you guys grew up watching 3-2-1 Contact. If you haven't, I feel bad for you because that show was absolutely amazing. As far as kids shows go, it's just must-watch TV. These days, kids got the Wiggles and Barney and all that stuff. 3-2-1 Contact was where it was at.
You are alone on this one, sir.
Yeah, I know. I've got a couple of years on you guys.
You're on your own island right now.
I keep referencing all these older movies and shows, and you guys just have no clue.
Well, yeah, I'm usually up on the older movies, but you always seem to pick, the one that I haven't seen.
Well, let's go into the quick hits. I was going to mention this last week, but since this week we don't have a whole lot to talk about, I figured I'd shove it in here. Sami Fasciane is getting some looks on the offensive line. Initially, he was going to be a defensive tackle, defensive end kind of guy on the defensive line there. But they're giving him some looks on the offensive side of the ball, which is probably one of the most Minnesota Vikings things I've heard in a long time. Trying to get the most out of any player, taking these guys that are physically impressive and talented and seeing where they can move him and what they can get out of him. And for a guy that might be on the roster bubble, I say trying to find any way to get him involved is awesome.
I think I heard Spielman. I think it was him that I was listening to that brought this up, where he was asked exactly about that, about moving people around, and he essentially said that this is the time of year that you are allowed to experiment with players in different positions, and it doesn't hurt anything. That's kind of the point of what they're doing right now, is to just kind of see what you can get out of these guys. And I'm not going to say it's a good thing or a bad thing that they're trying him on offensive line. I just think it's cool that we have a team that's willing to try that.
For sure. And David Yankee's getting looks at right tackle, which we were hoping he'd be able to come along and compete for one of those guard positions, which he very well may still be competing for. Mm-hmm. But the fact that Yankee's getting a little bit of looks at right tackle there is reassuring to his position on the team. And it also shows a little bit of extra ability that maybe some people didn't know he had. I personally never even looked at him as being a right tackle. Mm-hmm. But, hey, you never know. Give it a try.
Versatility and creativity.
Now, one rumor that was shot down completely as far as moving players around was a somewhat absurd rumor. I say somewhat absurd because I don't understand why this would happen. But there was a rumor that Brian Robinson would be moving to outside linebacker. And that idea makes absolutely no sense to me, considering the lack of experience for the defensive ends on this team. I would not understand that move at all, but...
Maybe he could go to Chicago, play linebacker with Jared Allen.
No.
I had not even heard this rumor. That is weird. Where did this come from?
I hadn't heard the rumor either until some of the Vikings beat writers on Twitter were dispelling this rumor that I had never heard before.
That's odd.
And I don't know why who would start?
We know that...
Are they hoping that Crichton was coming along, or... we know that Danielle Hunter isn't quite ready.
I mean, come on, guys. Mike Zimmer is creative, and he likes to move players around, but Brian's not going to linebacker.
No, there's already enough competition at the linebacker position. While we're talking about the defense, let's skip over this quick hit and go to the next one. You remember Corey Wooten?
He had the awesome robot sack dance.
That's what he's known for. That is his highlight as a Minnesota Viking, is that robot sack dance. He came out and said that he didn't quite feel comfortable in the Minnesota Vikings defense. He felt out of place. And I can understand that because Mike Zimmer is the kind of coach that he expects certain things. He knows what he wants from his players, and not every player is going to fit those standards or those needs. And the fact that Corey Wooten still was able to have, even though it was a disappointing season, but he was able to come in, throw a couple quarterbacks on the ground, disrupt a couple things, maybe that, I don't know. I'm glad to see him getting a shot somewhere else.
Where did he end up? I don't remember.
I'm honestly not 100% sure.
Well, let me Google that really quick and find out.
You were supposed to keep talking while I Googled it.
I thought he was close.
He is in Detroit with the Lions.
Oh, he went to Detroit. Oh, that's cool.
He's just making an NFC North tour. That's cool.
Yeah.
He's got to go to Green Bay next, and he's done.
And then he can retire. Spend one season in Detroit and then go to Green Bay, then he can retire. A happy man. Richer than I will ever be.
And the Vikings, they're honestly moving forward in a younger direction anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be trying to develop their own talent. A lot of these guys that were brought in as veterans from the past couple years were just there as placeholders until they could grow and develop their own players. And Corey Wooten was one of those guys that they plugged in, didn't quite work out. But I hope he gets a good, fair shot in Detroit and he can make things happen. So let's go back to the last quick hit on the list here. If we're talking about Adrian Peterson, we might as well talk about Brett Favre, right?
Oh, of course.
Brett Favre made an appearance at Winter Park for the Vikings OTAs. And the players on Twitter for the Minnesota Vikings were just blown away.
They went nuts. They were like kids in a candy store.
They absolutely were. You remember, well, I don't know if you've ever met your childhood hero or someone that you really looked up to, but guys like Cordero Patterson and Stephon Diggs were just amazed at
Charles
meeting
Johnson,
this football legend. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much respect Brett Favre still has in Minnesota with all the players. And I don't know, it was weird. When Favre left Green Bay, the entire Green Bay fan base turned their back on him. And it seemed like they hated him.
Mm-hmm.
When Favre left the Vikings, there was no bad blood or anything. But then when it was announced that he'd go to Green Bay and retire his number, I think Vikings fans sort of expected that was going to happen.
Oh, of course.
So it's cool to see a player that's respected by both teams as far as division rivals go. And honestly, I hope that Favre's respected by teams and fans everywhere. He should be one of those guys that kind of transcends the game a little bit. Because he is a football icon of our generation. A lot of the people our age didn't get to watch a lot of Joe Montana or Dan Marino, John Elway. They didn't get to watch a lot of that. They grew up watching Favre.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
So on to some OTA information. Tomorrow, which is Wednesday because we are currently recording this podcast, late on Tuesday night, tomorrow is the Vikings playground build. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the last couple years, but each year for OTAs, the Vikings and the players take one day off, and they go to a location, to a park, and they build a nice big playground for the kids, and just clean it up, put in a whole bunch of cool stuff for kids to play with. And it's one of the better things that I've seen teams do with their time for OTAs when they're not actually practicing. Mm-hmm. And I love seeing the Vikings taking the time to do things for the community like this. So a big thumbs up there for the Vikings playground build. I'm always loving to see this.
It's really cool. A lot of the players look like they're having fun out there interacting with the kids and getting it done. And it's pretty amazing the amount of work that all those guys can get done in one day. Like, they can start with nothing, and at the end of the day, you got like a whole playground built.
Well, they basically just strap the whole playground thing to Phil Lodeholt's back, and he carries it.
Yeah, he just carries it around from spot to spot.
Him and Babs could probably carry the whole thing.
I was just going to throw his name out there. I was like, those two, you wouldn't even have to do anything. Everybody could just take lunch.
That's right.
What do you think Jeff Locke does? Like, what do you think Jeff Locke's duties are when they build?
He just sits back with all the screws and everything and just punts them to everybody. That's it. You're not even allowed to come over. You just have to punt us all the tools.
Leffler, like long
completely
snap
off topic.
screwdrivers.
But did you guys watch that video of the outtakes from Vikings Media Day?
Good grief, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
If you guys have the Vikings app, which I know I've mentioned on the show before, download the Vikings app to whatever mobile phone you have. It was one of the things, and it might even be on the Vikings page for your computer. It's well worth like the 2 or 3 minutes worth. You get to see. We did
share it on the Facebook page too.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see a side of some of these players you've never seen. I haven't seen Teddy. No offense to Teddy, I haven't seen him act like not really a robot behind the camera until this happened, and it makes me love the kid 10 times more than I already did.
When they were giving Blair Walsh crap the whole for like a minute and a half, I was just laughing so hard. How tall is Blair Walsh?
So funny.
How tall is Blair Walsh? Do we know?
I believe he's listed as 5'8".
5'8".
I'm gonna look it up.
That's right, because I am taller than Blair.
No, he's listed as 5'10". To which even Blair Walsh said, they asked him how tall he was. He goes, "I'm listed as 5'10".
He can't be, because I'm 5'10", and I've met Blair Walsh, and I'm a little bit taller than he is.
Google Blair Walsh height, 5'10". That is a total load of crap.
And that is why that they were tackling that in that video. I just thought it was absolutely hilarious, so
fantastic.
I had to mention it.
It is such a big change from the attitude that this team has seemingly had before, where it was like the cool kids club and your veterans who came in and they didn't really want to be at OTAs, and no one ever really seemed like they were having that much fun being there. And it's nice to see all these young guys get in, and they're growing with one another and they're having fun. And
you know exactly what this seems like, and I'm sorry to fans, I'm going to alienate a huge percentage of our listeners on this one. The Vikings back when you were talking about, it's like WCW. There was the NWO, and NWO had all the TV time. Everything was NWO, and then they had like 2 matches, and they'd try to shove as many people as they could in them. And that's the way it seemed. There were the cliques. It absolutely was that way.
It was very, very clicky, and I don't know, whatever, who cares? But
but it was still, it's nice to see.
Nice to see the guys get along. Yeah.
Mr. West added this quick hit. On June 27th, former Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Jake Reed and defensive tackle Keith Millard will be signing autographs at the Comic Card Show in Bloomington, Minnesota, from noon to 1:30. Those are 2 guys. I have a Jake Reed autograph, but I don't have Millard. I would like that one. That's one that should look pretty good on my wall. I'd like to put that one right next to my Chuck Foreman.
Mm-hmm. Jake Reed is one of those I absolutely, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you need to, because here is a former player who is still 100% plugged in and enthusiastic about the team. Every Sunday, he is tweeting what's going on play-by-play on the field just like the rest of us. And it's so cool because a lot of the guys, they retire, they leave the team, and then you don't really hear much from them about what's going on anymore. Well, Jake Reed, still a Viking through and through, still loves to talk about it. Great guy. I don't know much about Keith. I'm sure he is too. But yeah, that'd be a great autograph session to go to.
Oh yeah, especially for fans of Vikings history. I know that there's a lot of emphasis right now on current players. There's a lot of excitement about the rookies and the young players. But you can never go wrong by taking a look into the Vikings history books and getting some of these autographs of veterans that helped establish this team.
And hey, Jake Reed was a hell of a player because he was the number 3 guy behind Randy Moss and Chris Carter. And he was still able to stake out a name for himself and be a factor on offense. So, I mean,
when it's all said and done, he will be the number 3 behind 2 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
All right, so the last quick hit I've got, which leads into our main topic, is that Tuesday, which is, again, when we're recording this show, 100% of Minnesota Vikings players attended OTAs. So what does that mean?
Did we leave
because
somebody
previously
out?
There was a player missing. but now there isn't. How does that happen?
Somebody decided to show up and fulfill their contract.
I understand that organized team activities are optional, but man, is it fantastic to see Mr. Adrian Peterson attend. Our main topic is Adrian Peterson attends OTAs. It's been a long time since we've seen Peterson at OTAs, and I've been stressing on this show for weeks now about how important it would be for Adrian Peterson to attend OTAs to show good faith, to establish a rapport with the team, and help reconnect with players. And boom, it happened. I am so excited about this situation. I haven't completely forgotten about what Adrian Peterson did, and I don't think people should. But the fact that Peterson took this step on his own will to attend OTAs is a major step in him being a big part of the Minnesota Vikings once again. How did you guys feel when you found out that Adrian was going to be at the OTAs today? Not all at once, guys.
Well,
Let's go ahead first.
okay. Of course I was excited because, as I had said before, and thankfully I was wrong on this one, I had really thought that Adrian's going to hold out all through camp. Potentially there could be a holdout into the regular season. And I was just, oh my god, I was just dreading that because it just go on and on and on of more of the negativity. Pleasantly surprised that he showed up. And I am, like you said, Adam, we're not going to forget what he'd done. Like, I do think that puts a little bit of a different spin on how you look at Adrian. But like we've said all along, just come back and play football. That's really all, as fans, that we really, really care about. Come back and play football. And so it's nice to have him doing that.
Couldn't really say it any better. I want to say thank you to the people on the podcast page that liked my little rant that I went on last week. That was under the anticipation that we weren't going to see AJ for a while. Wouldn't you know it, in true fashion, the next week, here he is. Much respect for him coming to something voluntary of a player of his magnitude, his respect level, his salary, yada, yada, yada. I'm glad he's here doing voluntary stuff out of his own free will. However, I'm still going to stand on my personal bias of I don't like what happened. I don't like the way he acted. But I'm not going to hold a grudge against him. He's here to do a job, and he showed up, and it looks like he's ready to commit to doing his job. So there's really not much more we could ask for. So, buckle up, strap in. The Adrian Peterson train's going to take off this year, and if you are a fan of purple, you should be excited about that, and I am excited about it.
I mean, look, he came out, he essentially, I haven't listened to the full press conference, but from what I gathered from it, he apologized as best as you're going to get an apology from Adrian. Let's stop beating a dead horse at this point. I mean, that was what? 9 months ago? How many months ago was it? But it's been a long time ago that this all had happened. Let's just whatever. Like, he's at OTAs, he's a Viking. From this point forward, I feel like we can discuss Adrian Peterson
as a football
player. And that I am going to segue into
Paul
really
Blart.
Awesome Zimmer quote that he said during
Paul Blart.
Yeah, Paul Blart, segue. And I didn't even mean to do that, you know that? But Mike Zimmer, during the press conference, said that, everyone was so excited to see Adrian out on the field. And the very first play, offense versus defense, everybody knew that Adrian was going to get the ball. Everybody knew it. So what did North Turner do? Play action pass, and it completely fooled the defense. Like, they bit on it hardcore, according to Mike Zimmer. That is exactly what we need from Adrian Peterson and Teddy Bridgewater come regular season, is just the threat of having Adrian in the backfield gonna open up those play action passes that should allow Teddy to hook up with whoever, Mike Wallace, downfield. We'll get some explosive plays out of the passing game, and then guess what? That opens it up for Adrian to get the ball and do what he does best. And let's go win some football games.
It puts safeties on the defense in a really bad situation. Do you play up to support the run, or do you play back to cover the streaking wide receivers? It's going to be a tough decision to make.
Having Adrian back is good for multiple players on the team. It's good for Teddy. It's good for Cordero Patterson. It's good for the offensive line because it's going to make them look better. I mean, it's good for the defense because it should give you, shorter fields to work with and stuff. Having Adrian out there, it's good for the team to have him back.
When Adrian Peterson was out, the Vikings were constantly seeing 9, sometimes even 10 players in the box.
Yeah. Well, but now we got a quarterback.
When Adrian was there, when Adrian was gone, and Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata were in there, that made passing down the field hard because they didn't have to play up as far. Now those defenses, they have to pick their poison. Are they going to live by stopping the run, or are they going to live by stopping the deep pass? Now, there is some worry still about Teddy Bridgewater's arm strength to complete the long passes. To that, I still say hogwash.
This isn't Ponder we're talking about.
Hey, people still call Teddy Bridgewater Noodle Arm, so
yeah,
I don't know.
Let him.
To me, he's been working during the offseason, getting stronger, and hopefully he'll come out and silence some of the Noodle Arm critics. Personally, I don't get it.
Don't see the Green Bay game at home last year with that awesome pass to Charles Johnson halfway through the year. Whatever. Get out of here.
Another Zimmer quote that I can say about Teddy is that he brought this up to the same point that we have made on the show multiple times about Teddy. He looks like he's bulked up a bit from this offseason versus where he was last season. And like Zimmer said, you got to remember that these kids come out of college and they're 21, 22 years old. And part of that is just maturing into your adult body that you're going to have. That sounds weird when you say that towards a professional athlete.
It is.
But it's true. I mean, this is still Teddy maturing into an adult. And so that's why, in part, he's going to look a little bigger and a little stronger because he's not a 20, 21-year-old kid anymore.
Speaking of bigger, stronger, have you seen Anthony Barr? Good
he
looks like a monster.
Recently, should I have? Apparently, I need to go look at some photos of him.
Go check out the photos of OTAs of Anthony Barr. He is a scary-looking man.
That kid's going to be fun to watch this year. I'm excited to see me some Anthony Barr.
I'm getting on my phone as we do the podcast. Don't mind me.
That's all right. So, along with this Adrian Peterson stuff came the Twitter rant about the contracts and how the NFL should have more guaranteed money.
That was stupid.
And be more like baseball and other sports as far as the contracts having guaranteed money. Now, I posted the social media question of the week. Do you feel that professional athletes should have 100% of the money in their contracts guaranteed, or do you feel it is up to the players, agents, and team to negotiate a contract that will make everyone happy? Well, we did not get a very good response to this question. We had 2 people reply, and because of that, I'm going to read them both.
Awesome. Go for it.
Corbin Johnson says, no, I think that they are way overpaid and make millions. They should be happy with their millions.
I agree.
That is true.
Yes.
That is true. Rick Jacobson says, in all fairness, I believe the contract should be guaranteed from the start. I have seen too many cases where the player signs a contract, and before it's completed, the player is traded or cut. A contract should be binding, and both parties should have to stay within the terms unless both parties agree. How would you feel if you went into work tomorrow and were told you either had to work for $5 less an hour or you were fired? When you asked why, they told you because they hired someone else that could do your job for $5 less an hour, so you could either take the cut or leave. Having said that, I totally agree with Corbin in that they were overpaid.
I agree with Rick. And Rick, that is just the most you answer you could ever give, by the way. So awesome. Thanks for the feedback there.
The problem with that is If you are at your work and you get injured, you aren't getting paid. You're sitting home unless you got some sort of really awesome insurance.
Oh.
You're sitting
Never
home.
mind. I was gonna make a joke, but never mind. We ain't gonna go there. We're not that political.
You're sitting home and you are not getting paid while you're hurt. And these players with the guaranteed deals, they're getting that money.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand how the players can be so upset about it. And as a matter of fact, when you enter the final years of a deal, when you negotiate your deal and you get all your guaranteed money up front, and then when you're at the end of your contract and there's not as much guaranteed money because you got it all at the beginning, you shouldn't be able to complain at the end that you got all your guaranteed money at the beginning. If you want that guaranteed money to be spread out, make sure that that's part of your contract deal. If Adrian's unhappy with his contract, there's only one person he should be yelling at.
Ben Dogra.
I went on a Twitter rant about this when he made his Twitter rant last week, and that's exactly what I said. You need a better agent or a better lawyer. Nobody forced you to sign this contract. And for my little spiel on this guaranteed money deal, this is a Players Association deal. And if you want this to change, it's just like if we want to find ways to give Roger Goodell less power, you need to get in there and you need to try to make something happen. I would never fault any person in this world for trying to make as much money as humanly possible. No. However, some of the things that Adrian said last week were, and I'm not trying to backtrack. You guys can quote me on this. I am glad to have him back and glad to see him play, despite everything that's happened and my opinions on what happened. But what he said last week, it was really, really weird. Oh, we should change this. We should do this. There should be. They could just throw us to the curb like trash. This is a business, and if somebody else comes in, or if you have a defamation of character and you give that organization a bad name, maybe kind of like what happened last season, we still kept them around. Or they find somebody who's going to compete, and like you said, $5 less. They can do your job, and they can do it better or cheaper. Why would that business not go that route? So I see both sides of the table. I can't be mad at a player, though, for wanting to make more money. I'll be damned if I was in their shoes and wouldn't ask for $100 million, billion, $1 billion.
But let's be honest here. When Adrian hurt his ACL and he was done for the year, the Vikings paid him. Mm-hmm. When Adrian had this problem that he went too far with his son and all that stuff, the Vikings paid him. Mm-hmm. If money's the issue, he should look at these people that are handing him the money when they don't really have to. And be saying, hey, this is fantastic. As a matter of fact, Adrian Peterson's bonus for OTAs, the $250,000 for attending every OTA session, it is right now still rumored that the Vikings are willing to pay him that $250,000 if he attends the rest of his OTAs.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm sure he will, and I'm sure they will pay him.
And I can't confirm that.
Didn't we say...
True or not right now, but...
Didn't we say, I think you said at one point, Adam, that what would fix this entire situation is money?
Yes.
Yeah. And essentially, that's kind of what the Vikings are doing. To go back to the question, the answer, and I don't think Adrian would like this answer, but if athletes want 100% of their contracts to be guaranteed, they have to be willing to take less money overall. Take less money, but have it be 100% guaranteed, or do the way it's currently set up. Like, there's not really, I don't see a middle ground. I understand what he's saying is that, like, look, you're an athlete, you risk incredible injury to go out there to play the game, so you want to make sure that you're set for you and your family, for whatever. Like you said, you always want to make the most money you can. And so you sign a contract, and it's a 7-year contract, and then 5 years into it, the team decides, hey, we can get someone cheaper, so guess what? We're going to release you, and we're just going to, who cares about the rest of your contract? But as a player, if for whatever reason you're 5 years into that 7-year contract, and you don't feel the team has done you right, you really don't have any way out of it. Like, I can see it from his perspective, but, dude, look at how much money you've made up to
Okay,
that
Adrian
point.
Peterson's at the 30-year-old hump in the NFL.
Yeah.
Most players, when they reach that hump, they want smaller contracts with more guaranteed money.
Uh-huh.
And I understand that totally. My only problem, like I said last week on this show, was how he was going about it and when he was going about it.
It's wrong
It's
time.
a terrible time to do it, and social media is a bad time to do it. Plus, as I said last week, Adrian Peterson might be 30 years old, but he essentially is only 28 because 2 of those seasons, Adrian Peterson basically didn't play.
I mean,
And it's all more about wear and tear instead of age. So if Adrian can come out, like I wrote in my article on the Viking Age today, Adrian Peterson comes out and he has a solid 2015 season, right?
yeah.
Let's say he locks down 1,500 yards, which is very possible for Adrian Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think the Vikings would want to renegotiate the end of that contract to include more guaranteed money for a couple of years so that they could lock him down and make everyone happy? The solution to this problem is to come and play and just lock things down.
Here's what I'm going to say, Adam, that have pissed some people off. No, they're not going to want to do that. In the back of Rick Spielman's mind, the gears are already turning. If Adrian has an MVP caliber season, he has just improved his trade ability. I know it. You're going to hate this, but he has just
I don't like it.
He's improved his trade ability, and guess what? We can suddenly fleece the Cleveland Browns or the Dallas Cowboys for a first round, a third round, and a next year 7th round, and another player for Adrian Peterson at age 31 at that point. You don't think he'd do that? You don't think he'd do that? You don't know Rick Spielman.
And I want to give a shout out to. We gave a shout out to Rick earlier. A shout out to one of my best guys out there. And I want you guys to check out his band if you like hard rock. The name is Burn Halo. My buddy James Hart. He's a diehard Chicago Bears fan. He was in a famous band called 18 Visions back in the day. I'd text him all the time, and we always BS about football. And he said, you should have traded him after he had the MVP season. I told you this a couple of years ago. And this was literally 4 or 5 days ago, and you're bringing it up now. I can totally see him being on the chopping block after that because, like you said, Adam said, he is going to run like a bat out of hell this year, and he doesn't have all the wear and tear. And I don't know if you guys saw the video today for OTAs, and I know it's OTAs. Give me a break. The dude he doesn't skip out on working out. He stays in shape. He stays in nasty shape.
Not at all.
And I don't know, man. He's a freak of nature athletically. So I don't know. We're already speculating on an MVP season and all that good stuff, whatever. Yeah. But if he has a solid year, I would never put it past to see what it's going to be worth. You can never, ever invest too much in the future. And I'll leave it at that.
Like I said, people are going to hate this right now, this talk.
Oh, yeah, you are not going to get positive feedback on this opinion.
We're not saying that we want that, but we're not dismissing the idea that
I'm dismissing it, but you guys...
I'm going to throw it out there that this could potentially be Adrian's last really great season. He could have some productive seasons after this, but this could be his last really great season. God, I'm going to get so much hate mail for this week's show.
You are going to get smothered.
You know what?
I don't care. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Your best ticket. I don't have anything bold to say this week. I wanted so badly to hop on that train. There's already an article out there predicting AP stats for this year. I'm going to wait until the preseason is about halfway over to make sure he doesn't get injured, which we all know he's not going to play in the preseason. However,
you never know.
We got 5 games.
He attended OTAs. That's something that he doesn't usually do.
We got 5 games. You might see him for his
Kyle West, not Kyle Smith. Old statement of the week. You can steal that one and let all the hate mail come.
I think I got it covered for this week.
The nice thing is that anything I said earlier that might have pissed people off,
whatever.
You just stole all the heat.
Yeah. I can play the heel for the week.
That's right.
Adam, can I steal your thunder for the social media question for this week?
Oh, sure.
Adam's usually the rock and the foundation of this show and the notes. Kyle does it. I'm the little bitty sprinkle on the top, but we're rooting around for a social media question because we didn't get as many responses as we wanted last week. So if you're listening and you want to go to our page from now until next week, here it is. So we've got this big stadium that's halfway done already. We've got one more year outside at the Golden Gophers Stadium, TCF Bank, I believe. So the Gopher Hole. So there's going to be 8 home games there. Obviously, we have 3 divisional, but we have some pretty good games coming there. Of all the games that are going to be played this year outside the last final outdoor season, which one would you, as the fans, want to go see the most? You have to take a look at the schedule. A lot of people will be eyeing that Kansas City game earlier in the year.
Yes.
I'll tell you what my pick would be, just looking at the schedule. You know who's going to be a really, really good, and they're always in contention? San Diego. I believe we play San Diego at home this year. I would love to see that game. You got a quarterback in Phillip Rivers who's a little underrated his whole career. Last time we played him, it didn't go so well. Donovan McNabb with an interception on the first play, if anybody remembers that. So,
that's
I had forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, you know what? We had to bring up some. We got Brett Favre in. Why can't we do Chunky Soup this episode?
True. Anytime you get McNabb and Paul Blart on there, you're good to go.
Did you hear? There was a stat that I read on Twitter that Brett Favre, and this is, I don't know how to take this as a Vikings fan. Brett Favre is something like the 9th winningest quarterback in Vikings history. And he was
as far as win percentage or what?
I don't quite remember what the breakdown for that was, but it was pretty crazy stat that Favre was up there that high. I'll have to look it up and maybe try to have that for next week's show.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And next week, hopefully, we'll be back with a whole bunch more quick hits, and we'll hopefully get a ton of responses for our social media question. Remember to head on over to the Twitter and talk to Mr. Kyle West. I'm sure he'd love to talk to you about his Adrian Peterson idea from earlier.
You can tell me how much you hate me at Purple People Pod.
And if you want to tell me and Mr. Smith how much you love us, head on over to Facebook.
.com/Purple People Podcast. You gotta finish it, Adam.
They know how to type Purple People Podcast into the search box.
You don't know.
Unless you're like my mom and you just keep Googling it. Oh, Mom. I love you, Mom, but man, technology ain't your thing.
That television commercial with Gary Busey where he talks to the, what is it, that Kindle Fire Stick?
That's my mom right there.
Your mom's Gary Busey?
We ended the show with Gary Busey. That rocks.
But on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. And remember to stay classy, Minnesota.